The Cougar's back, but can it roar like it used to? We'll find out this week on Motoring 98.
TSN's Motoring 98 is brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality, always has, always will, and Midas for new, longer-lasting, performance friction carbon metallic brake pads.
This week I have the privilege to be driving an old Mercury Cougar. Now this is a car with a lot of history, but you know, it wasn't long ago when Mercury stopped production of this vehicle. Well, it is back for 1999. Will this car bring back some of those memories? We'll find out later on. But first, we're going to begin with a story that could be entitled, "What Part of Stop Don't You Understand?"
Stop at the white line. Atta girl.
Even before they know how to spell intersection, these kids will learn the basic rules of the road, as in, the red light means stop. At least that's the theory, but the message can get confusing. Is your mom a good driver?
Yes, but my dad, you know what he does? He drives through the red lights.
So what are you going to tell him now?
Don't do that.
Maybe more parents should listen to their children, because the practice of running red lights has become a major problem in big centers like metropolitan Toronto, often resulting in tragic consequences.
Windstar L1, turn left on the red. He's just on the outside of that transport truck trying to get to the ramp.
Constable Greg Chaloux of the Peel Regional Police and his unit is staking out a busy intersection in Mississauga, Ontario.
Yeah, 10-4, that's the one. Time of the offense, 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock, he was 5 meters back, just continued through on the red on the outside of the transport, or on the inside of the transport, pardon me.
Red means stop, green means go. Do people understand what an amber light means?
Oh, I don't believe so. I think a lot of people believe that the amber light means get ready, it's going to turn red, but I can still go, and that's not what it means. What it means is that you're supposed to stop if it's safe to do so. But what's happening is people are seeing the amber light and they're just accelerating because they don't want to miss that light, so they're going to go through and hopefully beat the red. We have one officer who's spotting, that was myself. I would watch the intersection, I'm out of the vehicle, I've got elevation, I can see the stop lines clearly, the signals clearly. When I saw a violator, what I would do is I would then radio to one of the other officers who was on the opposite corner, and they would simply just step out and stop that car. So we have a total visual on the car the whole way through the intersection, and that person would then be pulled over, and that officer would issue the ticket to the violator. Well, there's a $105 fine for disobeying red or disobey amber, and a lot of people don't realize that too, that you go through an amber light, the fine is identical to that as if you had gone through a red light, and both of them have 3 demerit points.
Okay, the taxi cab on the outside is an illegal left turn. He came from the outside lane.
But the other infractions we were seeing there this morning, there's 2 left turn lanes, and then it does line up a little bit. So what a lot of people do is they get into the center through lane, they follow all the people who have waited properly, and they make the left turn on the outside of them. So that's an improper left turn.
Okay, look at this guy. He's just cutting right in there. Did he make it? No way. We've got an improper left turn right behind the transport truck. It's a silver Mazda 626 or something of that nature. He tried to sort of get in behind that transport truck before he entered the intersection, but the car behind him wouldn't let him, so he was outside in the wrong lane.
Aren't people worried when they enter an intersection with a red light? I mean, don't people have any fear, or is it just...
Well, I think a lot of people feel that, hey, they'll see me and not move, but again, the guy who they're facing may be in a hurry too, and maybe just looking at the green light or looking for the light to change, goes green and starts, as opposed to looking to see if the intersection's clear.
Northbound, you've got a Maxima, a gold card Maxima. He was in L1. He's behind a white van.
Got her. Time of the offense, 8:15.
Ma'am, may I see your license and the insurance for the car, please?
What have I done wrong?
You went through the red light, ma'am. You were 6 or 7 meters, or actually 8 meters back from the stop line when the light turned to red. We have an officer back in the corner watching for it.
So what you're saying is that I broke a red light?
You went through the red light, ma'am, yes.
A little bit of ignorance and a little bit of arrogance. I think a lot of people are putting me first. I'm in a hurry. I've got to get there. I'm in more of a hurry than you are, so get out of my way.
And I just want an explanation. What do you do if the people cut in front of you? Should you stand over there and touch the people? Cut off the lane over there?
Ma'am, we are standing all over the place. We have an officer here looking for U-turns. We have officers out here writing tickets. We have 2 officers over there spotting. What more do you want us to do?
The driving school in the outside lane was right on the stop line. Should have stopped. Should have stopped.
Got her.
You will not sign me. Just ignore me, okay?
Ma'am, I tried to explain it to you.
No,
you were not receptive, and that's it.
walk away.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I'm going to walk away and get back to my work, too.
Purple. Was that a student driver with an instructor beside them?
Yeah, it is.
I'd be having a word with the instructor, too.
I coach her. I said, now you cannot stop. You're gonna block the intersection. You must.
Well, if you're right at the stop line, you still have to stop. You have a 4-second amber. Yeah, but let me hang on a second, sir. You have a 4-second amber light. 4 seconds. That's plenty of time, even going at slow speed, to instruct her to stop. Okay, so she has to know that. The officer that we have on the far side indicates she was right at the stop line. It's just the way it is today. I think everyone's in a rush to get someplace, and you know, they disregard the lights, and they think that just because they have a car underneath them, they can you know, do whatever they want instead of, say, being safe until they get in an accident, and they think twice about it. So.
I don't know if you heard it this morning, but you know, people who were trying to slow down and obey the signal and stopping on the amber or stopping on the red, the car behind was honking them. Like, let's go. Well, no, that person was obeying the law, and you're the one who's pushing them from behind.
So what's the solution? Police forces cannot afford to man intersections, and there is a movement to bring back photo radar to Ontario.
Yeah, they're called red light cameras, and I think they're a good idea. There's pros and cons, obviously. You don't have 7 or 8 officers standing on the side of the road stopping these violators at one intersection. You can have a lot of intersections covered. It's an automated system. If I had a car and I let my car out to somebody and I got a ticket in the mail a little while later saying that my car was going through the red light, well, that'd be the last time that person ever drove my car. So I want to know what my car is doing when it's outside of my control. It's not a revenue issue, it's a safety issue. The message is, if you're worried about getting a ticket going through an intersection, you're worrying about the wrong thing. It's the lives that you're putting at risk that is the real problem.
Well, we'll give him that one.
Did somebody mention photo radar? You can just bet what I'm going to say about that coming up later on Kenzie's Corner.
On this edition of Test Drive, we take a look at the Lincoln Continental. And you know, when this vehicle debuted in front-wheel drive format in 1988, it did so with a very anemic V6 engine and a suspension that would have done the Titanic justice. Well, as they say, times are a-changing, and so is the Continental. The reference to the Titanic was deliberate because the common perception is that most luxury cars of North American extraction have more in common with land yachts than performance cars. Well, that is no more. Not only is the Continental tight, it has a very sophisticated suspension. At one time, you had to be a computer nerd to set up the handling characteristics on the Lincoln. Not so anymore. You punch vehicle handling, you've got 3 choices: plush, normal, or firm. Then you've got the steering effort: low, normal, and high. Once you've set it, you can change this thing from a mobile armchair to a car that has quite sporty pretensions. Up front, you have McPherson struts with 3-position dampers, while the rear uses an independent design featuring air springs and the same adaptive dampers. In the pylon test, the big Conti hustled through the course with little in the way of body roll and minimal push. Now, the latter comes despite the nose-heavy design. Beneath the hood sits a state-of-the-art 4.6-litre 32-valve quad-cam V8 that's good for 260 horsepower and 270 pounds-feet of torque. Suffice it to say, you will not want for power. The throttle response is quick, and as with the Cadillac, this car excels in the 80 to 120 sprint. The standard 4-speed auto box works well with the engine boasting smooth shifts and prompt kickdowns when needed. Perhaps my only wish would be for adaptive technology here. The smarter the tranny, the better the tranny as far as I'm concerned. Stopping power comes from 4-wheel discs married to a 4-channel ABS system. While the stops are short, measuring 119 feet from 80k, I did not care for the pedal feel. Generally, it required too much leg effort to yield the desired brake performance. While the trunk is huge, two things irk me. First of all, these hinges will crush anything placed at the side of the trunk, and secondly, there's no pass-through. No ski pass-through, no 60/40 split folding rear seats. Quite frankly, I expected more from a car of this caliber. Inside the Lincoln, you are truly pampered. From one of the funkiest looking dashes, which even manages to bet a Lexus, to the keyless entry system, everything is in place and functions well. At last, Ford has anteed up the bucks and now uses the seat-shaped controls for the front power seats. On the steering wheel, you find the cruise controls and redundant buttons for the radio and climate controls. These are needed because both sit well down in the dash. The seats, both front and rear, are well padded, nicely contoured and comfortable. And no, head and leg room will not be an issue. Well, there you have it. This new Continental is about as different as it can get from the one that debuted 10 years ago. And while it's true it's not exactly my cup of tea, it does do the luxury limo thing about as well as any other vehicle in its class. The Let It Snow ditty is very apropos for this update. In electing to test the Forester long term, the main objective was to put the 4-wheel drive system to the test. When it did finally snow, the Forester lived up to all of its advanced billing, providing almost endless amounts of grip in the worst conditions. On the other side of the ledger, we have an annoying wind noise that is generated by the roof rack. Now, Subaru say they have a fix that they'll install on our tester. Once fixed, we'll let you in on our verdict.
Our Midas tip of the week concerns rust. Sooner or later, rust will catch up with the best of vehicles. If you play your cards right, hopefully it'll be later rather than sooner. Keeping the lower extremities of your vehicle clean and free of mud and debris will go a long way towards preventing the onset of rust, or at least delaying it. Here's a classic example. This corner at the back of the cab on this 10-year-old vehicle is eaten completely through with rust. And it's no coincidence that the drainage ports at the back of this area were completely clogged with mud. This area couldn't breathe, stayed wet, and eventually the rust ate its way through from the inside. Now, if we move along the rocker panel and up to the front corner here and look in this front fender, we'll see the writing on the wall for another situation just like this. This area is completely full of leaf debris. It's muddy, it's wet, and it's going to trap moisture in there and eventually eat a hole through just like this one. By taking the shop vac and getting that debris out of there will go a long way towards preventing a situation just like this. That's your Midas tip of the week.
A portion of Motoring 98 is brought to you by the Solder Seal Gunk family of automotive products, makers of Puncture Seal Gold and Liquid Wrench.
The Mercury Cougar was born in 1966 as a 67 model. It's been through a few generations. The one you're looking at here is the 1970 model, the Eliminator. And this one is the brand new 1999 Cougar. Now you look at both of these cars and believe me, there are no similarities. The question is, by bringing back the new Cougar, is Mercury hoping to maybe rekindle some of the fond memories many drivers had of the old Cougar and hopefully bring them back into the showroom, or does Mercury really care?
Untamed elegance. Mercury Cougar. The world's first luxury sports car at a popular price.
Well, nostalgia is strong in today's marketplace, but with Cougar, it wasn't so much a retro job in terms of body and styling. It was a retro activity in terms of attitude. The initial Cougar, when it was launched in 1967 model year, was unique. Nothing else was like it on the road. It was fun to drive, and it really sent exhilarating waves through a whole generation of car consumers.
Cougar, cool elegance, and fiery performance. Cougar purrs with its standard 289 two-barrel V8.
I guess the connection is in the essence of what the car is. And this Cougar delivers as much as the original did on the three success factors in this class of cars. The car must look good, must be fun to drive, it must be affordable. Officially, the 99 Cougar is a small specialty car. This segment in Canada is about 30,000 units, not very big, or 5% of the industry. And that segment has been decreasing over the years to the benefits of sport utes and other cars. It's important to recognize cars officially classed as basic small, like the Cavalier and the Civic. Their top-of-the-line series are really sports coupes in the low $20,000. And when you consider the volume of these three nameplates, it literally doubles the potential for this Cougar.
The Cougar in Canada will be two cars for two customers. A four-cylinder model for a younger customer where affordability is an issue, and at $19,995 we think we've solved that issue. The V6 model at $24,000 and change will be geared more towards a more mature sports car enthusiast driver, and that is the intention with Cougar. Two cars for two customers.
For the man who wants a Cougar that'll really growl, there's a complete GT performance group.
Cougar is by far the most important name in the Mercury lineup. We knew we would bring back that name. It's a name not unlike Thunderbird, which we will bring back someday as well.
Cougar, as hot as you want it. Untamed elegance. The best of the two worlds of luxury and performance.
1970, the Cougar was powered by a 351 pushrod V8. In 1999, it's a 2.5 V6 with multiples of everything. Now, I think I know the answer to this question, but I wonder if he had a choice, which engine our own Bill Gardner would rather work on. Bill?
Well, Brad, no question that 70 Cougar would have been a real super easy car to work on. Matter of fact, I started doing my apprenticeship for mechanics in 1974, so 4-year-old Cougars were a big population of our shop. It's a car I literally cut my teeth on as far as repairs go. Anyhow, this car that we're working on this week is a 1990 Olds Cutlass. It's got a 3.1 V6 engine. Now, like all of today's cars, this car has what we call a Serpentine Belt. That's this wide multi-rib belt that snakes around all the driven accessories. It drives the alternator, the water pump, the power steering, the air conditioning, and it has a tensioner that keeps adjusting it and always tightening the belt no matter what the wear factor is. Now, what happened in this case, the problem started out as a seized alternator. The bearings locked up and the alternator literally wouldn't turn. So the belt was screeching across that alternator pulley. You can see all kinds of rubber deposited on the pulley, and it would have been making an absolutely incredible amount of noise. Now, the motorist, I guess, just either didn't notice or chose to ignore it, kept driving the car. It produced enough heat in the pulleys and in the belt that it actually melted the rubber ring down at the crankshaft that holds this outer pulley onto the crankshaft pulley. Melted the rubber in between that, and this fell right off the crankshaft and dropped down under the hood. Now, there's the new one. There's the old one superimposed over it. But if we look at the new one, we can see how it should look. There's that new outer ring and the new inner portion of this crank pulley, and sandwiched between those two is a strip of rubber right around there. That's what keeps these two together. Now, there was so much heat produced by that belt slipping and skidding across the pulleys that it actually melted that rubber and the outer ring fell right off. When it got to the shop, it was about 10 minutes between the time he pulled in and shut it off and I got to look at it. When I opened the hood 10 minutes later, the coolant was still after boiling in the reservoir. I could hear it gurgling and boiling away. So that thing was incredibly hot. How it didn't crack the head or blocks or blow the head gasket, I don't know. But in any case, when you ignore obvious signs like this, you run the risk of doing some severe damage to your car. If he'd croaked the engine in this thing, he'd be looking at a bill of about $3,000 to repair it. Initially, this thing started out as a seized alternator. That's a couple $100 repair job. So if you hear the warning signs and you get lights coming on in the dash, first thing, of course, is to get that car safely off the traveled portion of the road. But shut it off and consider getting it towed in or having someone look at it on the spot, because in an event like this car should have been towed in. He got very lucky that he didn't do a lot of damage to it. Till next week, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 98.
Okay, that light's turned yellow. Let's see what's going to happen here. Yeah, there's a truck going right through on the red, and two cars coming the other way on the red lights. You know, you saw a lot of that earlier in the show. It's become an epidemic in this country. And the irony is that the solution is a part of the problem. Traffic engineers set up traffic lights so that they're red all the way around. The theory is that this gives people a chance to clear the intersection. Well, that's the theory. This is the practice. Some poor guy in a Volkswagen tried to take advantage of that couple of seconds. He didn't make it. And we didn't set this up. We didn't bring this stuff with us. We just chose this intersection at random and found this stuff lying on the ground. You know, maybe we got to take a different approach. In Europe, they don't let four-way red lights people clear the intersection. Oh, no, no. When you're facing a red light in Germany, the light goes red. When it's ready to turn, it switches to yellow for a couple of seconds. Then it goes green. It's like a Christmas tree at a drag strip. Old Heinrich is sitting there in his Golf, and when he sees that light go yellow, he's revving it up. He's ready to go. The light turns green. Bam! He's out of there. Now, if you're coming the other way, you know he's sitting there. Your light goes yellow on your green. Are you going to try and cheat? Not a chance, because you're going to get T-boned when Heinrich comes flying through there. It's going to be your fault, and nobody's going to have any sympathy for you. Maybe that's what we got to do here. Forget this four-way red business. Let's go to the Christmas tree drag strip. If that doesn't work, I can't believe I'm saying this, we might have to bring back those photo radar cameras. I'm Jim Kenzie.
Well, auto journalists are putting the 1999 Mercury Cougar through its paces here on the skid pad at Road Atlanta. Among the drivers out there, our very own Graham Fletcher, creating havoc in his own unique way. But he will be checking in with a full test drive on the Cougar on a future program. So make sure you join us as we continue to bring you more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
We're reintroducing a car, a convertible that appeals to a different customer, and I think it'll be our top-end car, at least for a while.
TSN's Motoring 98 has been brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality, always has, always will, and Midas for new, longer-lasting performance friction carbon metallic brake pads.